Viscomi, and joining me is a very special guest, Gary Goldberg. Gary, thanks a lot for being on the show.
Zach, thank you very much for having me.
Now, Gary's a really interesting fella, doing a lot of wealth management and helping people, and he's really passionate about what he does, and I'm really excited to talk with him today. And you were telling me a little bit about your dad and how that was a big influence for you in sort of getting into this business. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
All right, it was a cloudy August day in 1944. My dad's P-51 plane that he's in a fighter group, and all of a sudden the Luftwaffe came behind them. They split up. My dad's plane was shot down like instantly. I mean, they had barely any time to do anything.
Wow.
So my dad actually landed safely. He was bloodied and very bad shape, but he was saved by this Frenchman. And many years later, I met this French gentleman who saved my dad's life. And understanding life is a little different when I'm that close for not being around, because this one gentleman saved my dad's life from the Germans, who were really approaching quickly to find the American. Later on in life, he was like what we call a triple dipper. So he had a military retirement plan, he had civil service, and he was also old enough to collect Social Security. So as a result, he had those incomes. I understand that retirement is an income situation balanced with how long you're expected to live from the time you're not working anymore at whatever job you may have. So Dad fell into some financial ruin, in a sense, with my mother due to a bad business deal. And so that brought it to a head. I had just sold a restaurant myself, and having that money to retire myself, I realized I'm way too young to retire because that money that I made sounded good at the time, but it wasn't enough to last another 40 years of life. So that, coupled with my dad's story, got me into the business of helping people. And what I explain is I help people retire younger, richer, with less anxiety. And it's been fulfilling. It's really, really great.
Yeah, that's awesome, and such a good story too. And thank you and your dad for service.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. And so, you were talking about how life and your perspective on life really changed after that, and now you're in the business of really helping people to plan for their future. We spend so much time sort of building these wells, but not really planning for what retirement looks like. And you were talking a little bit about what retirement really is the income part of that. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Retirement is more than just necessarily having a big pool of assets. A lot of people, when they're working and busting their tail and putting into a savings plan, a retirement plan at work or wherever, they're all out trying to build an immense amount of money. People don't quite realize that retirement is a financial condition as to how do you take that money out? How do you have an income plan? So building an asset pile is one thing. When it comes time to retirement, it's a case of how do you take out the money properly, so one, you don't run out of money too soon, or two, that you have way too much, that you're living in poverty and you die very, very wealthy. And I've seen both situations in my 30 years of experience.
Wow, yeah, 30 years of experience. So you've got a lot of,
I didn't know I could say 30 years of experience in anything.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit earlier too, and I see with your lapel pin, I mean, you've got a great group of people that you work with in small businesses. So tell me a little bit more about that, and then kind of how you niche down even a little bit further in some ways.
Well, I specialize in helping more of business owners and professionals, but then I like to narrow the focus even more into more of the gay business owners, gay professionals. I feel that's an area that's a little bit lacking in someone with expertise of mine to balance between, before same-sex marriage was legal, it was a little more of a difficult situation for retirement, or for collecting benefits, or for even life insurance, Social Security, for example, also. So now that it's legal all over the United States, it's a little bit easier, but it's still an area that I like to focus more on, the gay, lesbian, and transgender area.
Yeah, that's great, and quite a marginalized community. But now you're getting to serve them, but that's not your only focus. So you really really can help anybody, but you just have a passion for being able to help those people as well. And
yes, professionals are the ones who they know how to build a business. They're very strong with business of whatever they may be doing into manufacturing. Owning restaurants, as I used to do, that sort of thing. But when it comes time to how to manage the money, they don't know. So it's not really a do-it-yourself area, and small business people need to have that mindset to kind of convert over or maybe delegate that work to someone they trust as a trusted advisor such as me.
Yeah, and that's what's great too. I mean, your experience obviously in the restaurant industry and having, bought and sold and sort of run businesses for so long too gives you a unique perspective on helping these people to plan for the next step.
I was one of them, yes.
Yeah.
I owned a few restaurants and nightclubs, and it was great. But I tell you what, it's a whole lot better on this side of the table, this side of the bar. And but the mentality is unique, and I do share that small business mentality. I only worked for one company, the United States government, when I was in the service. So I've never really worked for another company. So I've always been self-employed.
Yeah.
And I know that feeling. I know how to handle it. And now conveying my expertise to help others, similar situation, to retire younger, richer, with less anxiety.
That's awesome. So, I mean, obviously you're very passionate about what you do and ultimately how you help people to have a better quality of life, leading up to retirement and then in retirement as well. So can you give me an example of maybe like a client or somebody that you had worked with that really kind of embodies that philosophy that you bring to the table for everybody?
When a small business owner has a student going to college, for example, and one of my favorite clients had 3 children going into college, and they were not sure how to be able to afford first the college, let alone if they pay for college, all of it or part of it, how would they be able to retire? In other words, how does that affect their retirement? So college and other major expenses really can take a hit towards their retirement plan. You're going to retire. You don't have to send your kid to college. A lot of people may say, oh no, we got to send our kid to college. But your retirement is mandatory. So my last gentleman who retired, I'd say just this past January, he had a significant 401k rollover, and it was instant. He said, Gary, and I knew about this, by the way, for like 3 years prior. I've actually known him for 20 some odd years. And he said, Gary, all right, it's coming up. It was even on my phone. I said, okay, Bill is retiring on this date. I knew almost to the minute, and they do.
Yeah.
Like the military.
They
my
count it
final
down.
day is here's my countdown.
Yeah.
And when he came in, he is the only one. Now he just retired in January, and he's the only one, due to the stock market fluctuations that we've recently had, mostly down fluctuations, that he's the only one who called me up. And he said, Gary, I'm not totally worried. He said, but he just rolled over his 401k, which was a significant amount of money. And with the market taking the downturn, I said, listen, we protect first. My philosophy is protection first, growth and or income second or third. We flip them around. Protect what you already have, because by the time they come to me and by the time they're near retirement, their asset pool should already be built up.
Right.
So it's more of a case of how do we preserve that so it makes sure that now that you're not employed, you have nothing to fall back on. It's not like you can go back to work. If you sold your business, what do? Go buy another one, and when you're 60, 65 years old or even later. So the money situation with this gentleman was so cool that I said, listen, not a worry. I said, everything's protected. You're doing fine. And we still have the money is going to last him out his entire life.
That's great. Yeah. So just to kind of close this out, I mean, obviously you put people first. I mean, you can tell you're passionate about this, and when you work with individuals, I'm sure in a lot of ways you've got to really tailor it to their specific needs. So if one of our viewers or somebody wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way that they could do that?
The best way to probably contact me is through my websites, checkwithgary.com.
Okay. Yeah, checkwithgary.com. That's pretty easy.
Kind of unique.
Yeah.
Checkwithgary.com, or call me up, 800-966-1690.
All right, Gary, well, thanks a lot for coming on. It was a pleasure talking with you. You got a lot of exciting stuff going on. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next as well.